Well, hello there, friends. You might notice that this video is coming a little bit later than I anticipated. Apologies, I had a family emergency. I had to take some time off, go home, and handle some things. So, without further ado, grab your cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy part 2 of this video. So, without further ado, day 3 of this video, or it's going to be a long one. Actually, it might be a 2-parter, depending on how long everything turns out to be. But, so here's what we're doing. Here's Rocky. Hey, handsome. You showing everyone the parts? Yeah. Alright, so I got a new transmission crossmember. This should correct my driveline issue that I'm having. And then, I've got a fuel pump hotwire kit that will direct alternator voltage right to my fuel pump. And what that does, in a nutshell, it comes from, you know, the battery and then the alternator, and then it goes to this plug and then the fuse and then the fuel pump relay. And by the time it gets there with thin gauge wire from 1985, my fuel pump voltage isn't where it should be. Optimal for an engine this big. So Racetronix, they sent me a sticker. There you go. Racetronix makes this really nice, just plug and play kit. Like, it really looks as easy as it can be to install. You know, this goes to the alternator. This is your fuse. Then it runs underneath the car. Then you've got a relay, chassis ground, and then these 2 plugs for your fuel pump. And now, of course, I bought the kit that comes with a fuel pump, but my fuel pump is still good for now. Here it is. It's a 255 liter per hour at 43.5 psi, which is about what this runs at. Fuel pump. And we're going to replace that once so my tank is full, and I don't want to drop a full gas tank. That's not fun. So yeah, and let me show you where the gas tank is. Gas tank's right here. Yep, so that means the exhaust has to come out of the way, which is no big deal. Hey, handsome. See? He gets sugars. Let me see. Did Daddy get sugars? Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Such a good boy. Yes, you are. He's a rescue. Such a good boy. So yeah, axle's got to come out of the way a little bit, and then the fuel tank can come down. It's really not that long of a process if the tank is more or less empty. And you definitely want it to be empty because you're going to be wrestling with this thing. So, yep. I think I figured out just now where my relay is going to go. You see this hole right here? I think there's going to be a screw in this, and that relay is going to go right here. Yep. But first, transmission crossmember. Yeah. So let's grab the impact and have some fun. Alright, so here's what we're replacing. This guy right here. We're going to talk about driveline angle. So the driveline angle refers to the relationship between the rear axle and the transmission as connected by the drive shaft. Now, as a rule of thumb, when you measure your driveline angle, so with weight on, you always want to do this with weight on the wheels, right? So say your rear end's pointing up at like whatever, 0.3 degrees or whatever. You want the transmission to be angled down the same amount. Rule of thumb. Tremec actually makes a really nice app that we're going to use eventually. But yeah, so first thing we're going to do is I'm going to check the drive shaft. Check for play. Not a whole lot of play actually. And then what I like to do is spin it and go up and down Okay. Test your U-joints. So now, I'm gonna get this out of the way. This is the first thing I ever welded by myself, by the way. So it kind of looks like crap. But I was young, and I'm probably gonna keep it like, you know how Iron Man keeps all his suits around? I'm certainly not Tony Stark. Now, the transmission is supported by a jack with a block of wood. The block of wood is just there to kind of, you know, no metal on metal marring contact. Well, that could be a problem. Alright, so unfortunately the camera had to charge, and you missed a little bit of stuff. So let me show you what you missed. So, we start here, where this, you know, these four lines come together, right? And they run down the frame of the car. So then we keep going. You notice that now they're nice and isolated. So everywhere where there's contact, I spent time, you know, isolating this and pushing these up, because they were hanging down real low due to my subframe connector right here, which is a bolt-in / weld-in. It's both. All right, so we keep coming up, and I pushed the fuel lines. Now these, to feed my stealth ram, are AN adapters that go to this line and then turn it into an AN line, and then they go up. So, you know, when I was young and dumb, I'll admit it, I was young and dumb, I kind of ran them all together, and I just zip tied the hell out of them, right? So now what I did was to push these up out of the way and to prevent things from hitting them, I ran them up. I made this nice little bracket here out of some aluminum bar stock, and then I made a bracket right here out of aluminum bar stock, right? So the one reason I moved the lines is because of the cross member, right? This bar right here, right? It's gonna touch those lines. Now my other problem is this bolt right here touches right here. And not only that, but I need to do some research and find out what mount I need, because this mount is a lot taller than this one. That's an energy suspension aftermarket one. I might try that and see what happens. But so now my moral thicket is, do I cut this, kind of notch this to clear this bolt, right? This is a little bit of money in my hands right here. Or do I just take the one I made and kind of modify it to fit? That's something I'm going to decide later. So yeah. But now, before I put that back up, we're going to go up top and we're going to put in the fuel pump hot wire kit. We're going to run the wires down through here. So the hot wire kit is pretty self-explanatory. It does come with instructions, and we are following the instructions, but these go to the pump. It's in the back of the car. This goes to the alternator. Here's a fuse. Fuse in there. And I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put this. And then, yep, there's that. And then this literally just runs to the back of the car. So I think what I'm going to do, since everything runs up the driver's side of the car, I'm going to go ahead and kind of tuck this in with this big loom right here. So it's going to kind of come around. Come around here, meet these hoses, come up along here, and then back of the alternator, and I just got to figure out where I'm going to put that fuse. I'm probably just going to make a nice little bracket to come off this, kind of like an L, like I made down below. And then I'm going to bolt the fuse right to that so I can check it at will. This runs all the way to the back. This is chassis ground, so I'm going to have to find a ground for this. This will get screwed into that, probably that bracket that the brake lines and stuff are held onto. One thing I don't like is that the relay is underneath the car. I really would have preferred to have the relay up here somewhere, so that way I can, you know, if there's a malfunction, I can check and swap the relay without jacking the car up. But, you know, they all can't be winners, I guess. So I guess we'll start by disconnecting the battery, because we're responsible people, right? Now, since I want everything to start from kind of this side of the car, I'm just going to kind of toss this over here, figure out where I want it to go. But you also want to keep in mind that the headers are right here, so you want to keep this as far away from the headers as you can, because you don't want to melt it. So I've got it on the other side of the O2 sensor wire, so I'm going to tuck it up along all of this, and it's going to run down the fuel line. But first, now when you're doing wiring, or when I'm doing wiring, I like to try and figure out where everything's going to go, and I want to try and minimize slack, because nothing looks worse than just a bunch of slack everywhere, right? So now, since this is going to go right here, okay, this is going to screw to this. I'm going to make a nice little bracket for this to come off that bracket there. So I'm going to start by screwing that to the alternator. Alright, so kind of run this along here. Alright, and make sure that those are together. And then we'll go ahead and cinch this down. Alright, so I made a quick change. I unbolted this again, and I actually ran this underneath my coolant hoses here, my heater hoses, just because I already have wiring that runs underneath there, and I wanted it to all kind of match. So now it all comes up together, goes up past here, and then down, and now we loom it back across the rest of the way. That's doing that. That's coming over here. Of this from underneath the car. Now, the company was nice enough to send a whole bunch of cable ties, so I can cable tie this up. I want this to be one of the things that's seamlessly integrated into the car, as in it's there, and I don't have, when I service things that would usually be serviced, I don't have to mess with this in the way. You know what I mean? Look up here and make sure that we're not touching the fuel line, or not touching the header, or anywhere near the header for that matter. One right here. It's all in, it's zip tied. I'm going to trim the zip ties off, obviously, as I go. But now, for mounting this relay, I want to do it up here, right? So it's out of the way. There we go. There it is. I was going to mount it down here, but that's real low So I moved it up a little bit right here. Alright, so self-tapping screw, relay mounted nice and high, up out of the way of everything. It's sealed, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then the ground's going to go right here after I scrape off some paint. Kind of off to the side. And yep, relay. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so here's completed install. They gave me like 50 feet of extra wire, so I kind of wrapped it around itself. And I tied it in here, right? So it's nice and tight to this. And then the two plugs, the factory one and then the bulk, the new one, I zip tied them together to keep them away from the suspension as it travels, right? I figure if this is okay, you know, being bolted right here when the suspension travels, then this should be fine too. Now I'm going to go up and we're going to snip all the zip ties. And while I snip them, I'm going to double check everything. And what I like to do is I leave the zip ties, and then as I snip them, I quadruple check my work. And then hook the battery up, turn the key, and hopefully the fuel pump works and nothing catches on fire. Alright, hair probably looks ridiculous right now, but I just hooked up the negative. No fire, no flames. I have a fuel pump. Alright, I'm not going to crank it up just yet because I have to put the transmission crossmember back in. Alright, cool. So everything is run properly. Wires are away from the header. Plug wires are still good. Everything's loomed. I got to make a bracket for that. Everything's good underneath the car. Let's turn the key and see if we have fire. We have pump. Alright, we have fire. And with that new exhaust, it's loud. Now, I'm going to show you guys, since I have that aftermarket capacitor in my stereo, how to charge it. You have to charge it through a load, right? So the load is going to be the light bulb. So you take this, you put it on your positive, you take this, this runs back to the capacitor. You see that? Light goes out, capacitor is charged. I can now put the fuse in and not shock myself. I do like to keep some of this aluminum bar stock around. So what I'm going to make a template. So this is going to go right here. Now. Too much. It's going to be a down bend. A down bend. The up bend would make it fit better. The up bend probably would make it fit better. It's going to look just like this. Just out of aluminum. Cut here, bend here, make 2 holes, good to go. Before you drill your holes, you always want to center punch here. And a hole here. A kiss on the grinder. I'll paint this later. Let's go get some hardware and put it in. So you might notice it is yet again another day, and also I'm in a completely different car. I'm in the Camaro right now. Well, I'm here to tell you at the end of this video, and a little bit of other content that I had filmed over time was lost. I decided it would be a good idea. I was on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or one of those two, and I bought another GoPro camera. Well, I put the memory card in it. I was all excited. I filmed a bunch of content with it, including the end of this video. And it turns out that the memory card was corrupted, and it formatted and erased all of my video, which upset me greatly, which really sucked. But, oh well. So, pardon the dust while I spend some time and figure out where I can put pictures in and commentary. Because I always take pictures and I can just record an audio commentary and still explain what's going on. So yeah, but stand by, there's a lot more content coming, and where I don't have a planned video, I'm going to do some editing for the older videos that I've made, and if I don't have something new, I'm going to release an older video, which is still a fun, tech-filled experience. It's just stuff I never got to edit and put on YouTube. So, like, subscribe, hope you had a good time, you keep that hammer down and you go like hell. See you later.